Florida once again snatched defeat from the claws of victory on Saturday night, dropping to the number 5 Florida State Seminoles 24-15 in a game that was pretty similar in a lot of ways to many of Florida's games this season. The team fought hard, but just couldn't get out of their own way. There was a really good start from this team. The stadium was loud, it was intense, the energy was there. This team seemed really, really hungry. They came out strong. They seemed motivated, they seemed juiced, they seemed like they knew what was on the line, right? And even though Florida was dominating in the yards category after the first quarter, it was still 0-0. And then Florida went up 12-0, right? That defensive safety, that was huge. This defense played better than I have seen them play probably the entire season. And I mean, does that mean they played great? Not necessarily, but they played really well for how they've played the rest of the season compared to how they've played the rest of the season. And kind of like that Georgia game, a horrible play call crushed what could have been a knockout blow. A lot like the Georgia game, a horrible play call crushed what could have been a knockout blow. Florida is up 12-0, right? They had a great punt return, so they get the ball at midfield. Florida is having no problems moving the ball at this point of the game. So what does Billy Napier think is a great call for where we are in this game to keep the momentum going? He chooses to call a double reverse flea flicker. Double reverse, guys. It doesn't make any sense. And, Billy Napier, a lot of the times, called the game too conservatively, particularly in the second half, in my opinion. But at this point in time, you could deliver a knockout blow to Florida State. You could score 7, or at the very least, score 3, right? Add more points on the board in a game where points were at a premium. I think what Billy Napier was trying to do right there was be aggressive, right? And that is something that we have all called on him to be many times throughout this season. He's too conservative. He should be aggressive. But instead, what he did was overcomplicate things. And I think that there is a huge difference between being an aggressive play caller and overcomplicating your play calling. And I think that is what he did. An aggressive play call would be attempting just a long bomb, right? Overcomplicated is a double reverse flea flicker when you have all the momentum in the world. It doesn't make any sense. It ended up in an intentional grounding penalty. Florida State ended up getting the ball back. They ended up scoring a touchdown. You could be going into the locker room up at a minimum 12-0, right? If you just stall this drive a little bit. You could be up 15-0. You could be up 19-0. That would be a huge way to go into the half. Instead, you're not, because you called a play that killed all the momentum. It just doesn't make any sense. There was a lot of horrible mental mistakes in this game. I think, honestly, both on the coaching staff and on players. Let's talk a little bit about Max Brown. He got the start because Graham Mertz is hurt. And, honestly, I think he did pretty well. He had some pretty humble numbers, but he made good decisions for the most part. And he showed his physical toughness. Florida's offensive line didn't do him any favors. And I think at times his inexperience showed, but I think he did what Florida needed him to do, right? I don't really think the mental mistakes fall on him so much. He did throw an interception late in the game, but they were kind of in a situation where he had to do something. So I don't even blame that on him, truly. There was a series of terrible personal fouls, mental mistakes that really, really hurt this team. Jamari Lyons getting ejected for spitting. That was a 15-yard penalty that led directly to points. Florida State scored 7 points on the end of that drive. I don't even know how you call spitting on someone a mental mistake. I mean, I guess it is because you can't control your emotions. But for a coach who has preached discipline, who has preached process, who has preached building the culture from the ground up, it's not a great look to have one of your guys that you brought in spitting in his opponent's face. And honestly, kudos to the Florida State player for not taking it from there, because somebody spits in my face and it's probably not going to end well. So, discipline on their part that didn't escalate further. The targeting on Jaden Hill in the second half gave a fresh set of downs, 15 additional yards. FSU would have had to punt. It would have been fourth down. At that point, if Florida can score a field goal, they can win the game. Instead, fresh set of downs, 15-yard penalty, new life, Florida State scores a touchdown. Florida State's defense only allowed 48 yards of offense in the second half, including negative 15 in the fourth quarter. It's like Florida State, kind of woke up. Whatever they said in the locker room at halftime did something for that team, helped that team. Florida, who honestly, up against your biggest rival, the number 5 team in the country, when you go into that locker room at halftime with that situation, it should be incredibly easy to keep you juiced when you come back out. But they weren't. They came back out flat, kind of. They didn't look nearly as hungry as they looked at the beginning of the game. And I think FSU adjusted well in the second half defensively, and that was part of the problem. UF really wasn't able to get much going outside of that one field goal drive. But play calling got conservative too. And why is that? Is it because, in the beginning of the game, stuff is scripted, which is where Billy Napier shines, right? If he's got a couple days to write up those plays, they're going to be good. It's following the game momentum and calling plays that way that is not his strong suit. And like I said earlier, play calling, head scratching. So at times he's super conservative. At times he thinks things like a double reverse is a good call. There is no good following of the ebbs and flows of the game from Billy Napier. He's not good at reading the room, so to speak. He is great at killing momentum for Florida, but he's not good at the right play call at the right time. I just think they made too many mistakes. They hurt themselves. This defense, like I said, did fairly well. They only gave up 24 points. They scored 2 themselves. It's the best defensive outing that we have seen so far this season against one of the very best offenses that we've seen this season. I know they were missing Jordan Travis, but they still have all of their other major weapons. And it looked like this defense knew what they were doing. They cared about this game. They showed up. They tackled, for the most part. I don't know that you blame this on the defense outside of those mental errors, those penalties that really just killed this game for Florida. And even with all of those mistakes, Florida still had a couple of chances to put this thing away. Field goal kicking really, really hurt them in this game. Special teams in general. That first missed field goal, inexcusable. Florida should have made it. They should have had 3 more points. That second field goal was a 52-yarder. So I don't know that you get to blame Smack for that one. That is an incredibly far kick. But I think the bigger issue with that for me is that why didn't we take that moment to be more aggressive and try and score a touchdown? Why is it that we were going into the half just kind of meandering along, hoping to send it in with the field goal at the very end? We got that long run by Montrell Johnson. Capitalize on that. Get the ball into the end zone. It seems like there's no killer instinct from this staff. Keep your foot on the gas. You could have gone in with more points. Honestly, this game kind of told us a lot of the same, right? Billy has a lot of questions to answer. And it's nothing that we haven't talked about on this channel a million times before. He needs an offensive play caller. You could look just at this game. You don't even need the rest of the season to look at to know that not having an offensive play caller hurt Florida. We need an offensive coordinator that's not named Billy Napier. We also need a special teams coach. Take the kicking aside because, field goals get missed, right? There were a lot of penalties that happened on special teams that were game killers, drive killers, gave Florida State big advantages. And then can we talk for a second about Florida's offensive line? I get it. There are guys that were injured. We've had a different starting five almost the entire season. But we have 2 offensive line coaches. What are they doing? This offensive line has not gotten better as the season has gone on. In fact, it's probably gotten worse. So are these areas that Billy is going to address this offseason? We are officially in firing season. If you follow social media and Twitter all day on Sunday, it's been announced different position coaches that are being let go from programs because the regular season is over. So far, no announcements yet from the Florida Gators. From a PR perspective, it is helpful for Billy Napier to make his announcements sooner rather than later. We don't need to hear about this. Well, I'm going to evaluate, and at some point, maybe in February, we'll know what our answer is for who we're going to let go and who we're going to retain and whatever else. No, make the announcements immediately. This person is no longer with the program. That would go a long way with Gator fans in knowing that Billy Napier sees the same problems that we do. It would make fans more comfortable in the direction that the program is headed. And listen, next year, tough schedule. Billy's going into the season on a warm seat. This roster is going to be almost exclusively his. And he is more than likely going to have Graham Mertz back next year, your team leader, your super senior, back for one more ride. UF cannot finish under 500 for the 4th straight season. It's just not acceptable. So will the changes be made right now? Will they be made soon? Will Florida be able to close on this recruiting class? Holding the 2024 class together will go a long way in smoothing some things over with the fans and letting everybody know that the program is still on track. But these next few weeks are really, really important for Billy Napier. Does he close strongly on the trail? Does he pick up some names that maybe aren't committed to the class yet, but we would like them to be? What staff changes is he going to make? This season was pretty forgettable, but there is still time for him to right the ship. He's got to be aware, he's got to be good at self-evaluating, and he's got to make changes now. Thanks, guys, for tuning in all season. I've got lots more content coming your way, so I will talk to you soon. Go Gators.